Welcome to Podula Rasa, the podcast about finding something in nothing. After a hiatus of a half a year or so, we return to the show with a new format and new material. Our first show of this incarnation of the podcast deals with the topic of change, something both Jim and I have been experiencing recently. Change, in fact, may be our theme for 2024. In this show, we'll explore some shifts and changes in our lives that have been evolving recently.
Everything changes all the time. We often don't want to admit that to ourselves, but the truth is impossible to deny. We grow up, we grow old, we die. We gain, we lose. Even when we stay put, we're on the move. Change is on my mind a lot. Last summer, my kid moved to Vermont. My dog is getting older. He just turned 13, and though he's in great shape for his age, you know that the time is getting short. I'm getting older. I turned 60 this year, and I'm in the midst of a major shift in my job. I wanted to wait until it was official. Call me superstitious. Didn't want to get out over my skis and jinx anything. It's a long story, but I'll make it as short and sweet as possible. In December, the university where I've worked full-time for the past 20 years offered me a voluntary buyout. After intense deliberation and many conversations with the most important people in my life, I took the buyout. Now that the semester is over, my days of teaching on ground are over. I'm transitioning to remote adjunct teaching and freelancing. Will it work out? I think so, but there are no guarantees in life. Humans like to anticipate. We project ourselves into the future that we know will be a change from where we are right now. We're playing out the changes in our minds before the changes happen. And then when the change comes, it's more likely than not to be nothing like what we envisioned, and we'll have to adapt. Going through such changes can lead to personal transformation. It can also be something that has to be endured, like a tree weathering a bad storm. Once the change blows through, the tree still stands, or doesn't. We inflict change on ourselves, or change happens to us. Being in time means living with change. I want to be okay with it. I'm excited and anxious and terrified and happy about the changes to come. I'm a ball of condensed energy about to explode. Put your goggles on. It's going to be a crazy ride. Can I keep my poise with every crashing wave of change? I'll try.
Do you feel more alive these days now that this has come to reality?
Yes, absolutely more alive. Yeah, and in such a good way, because as you're anticipating a change, it's sort of very stressful and there's a lot of anxiety. But once you commit to it, once you actually start telling people, I'm doing this, and it's out there, then it's like a total shift in attitude and outlook. I feel very alive. I feel like I can breathe again.
Excellent. Changes have come my way quite a bit over the last couple of years. My family moved our home base in the Upper Valley of Vermont, New Hampshire, where I had nested essentially for the previous 28 years, to Western New York, and where we have lived for the last 3. And we got to hang out with long favorite family and to get to know them much better. Now we're in the process of moving again. My wife's job has transitioned us to Massachusetts. And in a very strange way, going back to New England feels like coming home. Since January, each weekend, Leah and I have been traveling to Massachusetts, or Tosh comes here. Usually one of us will bring the dog back and forth. Hooper the cat has moved to Massachusetts permanently now, and Heidi, our dog, has been in Massachusetts since our house went on sale. She comes back with us this coming weekend because our house is now under contract, thankfully. I have found it interesting that while I miss my wife and my family being together, I'm actually glad to feel that sense of missing her and the way things will be again, that I don't really miss what was, even though I liked what was. There's really no going back. I guess you don't know what you've got until it's gone applies, but in a very temporary way. In just 30 days from the taping of this podcast, we'll be together again full time, but with a renewed sense of partnership and somehow a very deeper level of experience of each other as both a couple and as a family. I don't think that our relationship could even get any better if you'd asked me 3 years ago, but somehow it has. We talk about it all the time, this change that we've been going through. And I know that she feels the same. And that's truly amazing. And it's a real gift. In some ways, she and I feel closer together than ever, even being physically separated in a way that we are. Couple that with my turning 60 in just 3 days, and all the values have been tossed up in the air, but have also somehow solidified. I've been juggling them each in turn, one at a time, so that the mental realm and the physical realm are somehow equivalent. I've also found that I sleep and breathe so much better when we're all under the same roof. It's really odd, actually, but it sort of makes sense, to me at least. Couple all of this personal adventure with coping with our daughter, who is undergoing change, but in a different way, in a very positive way. The whole family is kind of in a turmoil, but in a good way. We keep coming back together. Perhaps that's another form of good trouble.
Yeah, I'm interested with how you finished there. How can turmoil be a good thing, or how can there be good trouble? Like that's paradoxical, but I think I understand that. But what do you mean by it?
Well, I mean it that it's difficult, but it's necessary. It pulls you out of your normal mode of thinking and gets you to see a new perspective of things. And I think that's maybe why my experience of my relationship with my wife has really intensified so much, because I don't get to see her every day. And perhaps I took that for granted over the last 22 years, minus the last 5 months, of course. It's been hard, but it's been good. I guess maybe I'm an optimist. Maybe I'm finally realizing that. But so that's what I mean by good trouble, because it leads to something positive.
It reminds me of a line from a short story I read by author Julie Oringer, and I think it's an old Jewish adage: "The smoothest way is full of stones."
I like that.
We want to introduce a new segment on the podcast called Poets Corner, where we read either original poetry or poetry by other people. It's just a little corner of our podcast world where we can exercise our creative juices. Dave, what do you have dialed up for this episode's Poets Corner?
I've got a piece that I just finished this morning called Changes Distilled. Change comes, always. Change may be ignored, but the smarter path involves recognition and introspection. Change can be simultaneously invited and feared. Change can make you feel knocked down, but also makes you know a deeper love. Change comes fast and change comes slow. Change brings opportunity and change brings crisis. Change leads to growth. Change reinforces love.
I'd like to read a poem by our sage and mentor, Williams. And this is a poem from his book, Alive Beyond Blue, and it's called The Process of Subtraction. I am seeking truth now in the process of subtraction, like the block of marble reduced to David, or a soul separated from its tomb. I see everywhere a resolution. In myself, I seek the holy gray. The complex colors of my hair have gone to gathering winter, a simple winter, and it is prayer season now in the empty sky. After the storm, the survivor elm, its fragile branches roughly combed, shows true white scars of recent separation. In the stream, I found a stone whose long silent heart had bathed in a geological age. Currents had reduced its frivolities. Time had outweighed its temper. I swear it sang to me then, warm against my palm in the withering year. I am seeking truth now in the mist, welcoming fog, waiting with distinctions bled to zero, and the song of a small stone.
I love that poem. I want to thank Meg Williams for sending both of us copies of this book now a couple of years ago.
It's a real treasure. Thank you, Meg.
It is. Thank you.
And we are also planning to do a meditation segment. We're not ready to do that this episode, but the idea here is we'll give you some prompts for reflection or journaling or a actual in real time during the podcast brief meditation session. So stay tuned for that. We've got some good ideas we're cooking up. I just wanted to lay it out there. That's part of our new format.
We hope that you've enjoyed the show. If you have reactions, comments, or suggestions, we really hope to hear from you. You can email us at podularasa@gmail.com or leave a comment on our Substack or YouTube pages.